A bomb falls from the sky, but it does not explode. Instead, it breaks open mid-air, releasing a cloud that scatters in every direction. Hundreds of tiny shapes flutter outward into the darkness. For a moment, nothing happens. Then the fires begin. April 1942, United States. In the tense months after Pearl Harbor, American planners are searching for anything that might work against Japan. Conventional bombing is still limited. Long-range missions are risky. Precision is unreliable. Japan is far away, heavily defended, and its cities are built largely from wood and paper. That last detail matters, because one man believes he has found a way to turn it into a weakness. His name is Lytle Adams. He is not a soldier, not an engineer. He is a dentist. But he has an unusual idea. Bats. Adams has spent time exploring caves in the American Southwest. He has seen millions of bats clustered together, silent and hidden in daylight. He knows how far they can fly. He knows they can carry small weights. And he understands something critical. Bats naturally seek out dark, sheltered spaces during the day. Attics, roof beams, wooden structures. Exactly the kind of places that fill Japanese cities. His idea is simple, but strange. Attach small incendiary devices to bats. Release them over a city at dawn. Let them scatter and hide inside buildings. Then, at a set time, the devices ignite. Not one explosion, hundreds of fires. At first, military officials are skeptical. The concept sounds too unusual, too unpredictable. But the United States is in a desperate phase of the war. New ideas are being tested rapidly, and Adams manages to get his proposal reviewed. Eventually, it reaches President Franklin D. Roosevelt. Roosevelt does not dismiss it. He reads the proposal and reportedly says it is worth looking into. That decision sets everything in motion. The project receives a name, Project X-ray. Now it becomes real. The military begins testing. Scientists and engineers are brought in. The challenge is not just the bats themselves. It is the entire system. How do you transport thousands of bats safely? How do you attach devices without harming them before release? How do you ensure they disperse properly? And most importantly, how do you control the timing? The solution begins to take shape. The bats are placed into special containers. These containers are designed to be dropped from aircraft at high altitude. Inside, the bats are kept in a state of torpor, a kind of deep sleep induced by cold temperatures. This keeps them calm. It also allows thousands of them to be packed together. Each bat is fitted with a tiny incendiary device. Lightweight, timed, designed to ignite after release. As the container falls, it deploys a parachute. At a lower altitude, it opens. The bats wake up. Instinct takes over. They fly. Early tests begin in controlled environments. At first, results are mixed. Some bats do not behave as expected. Others fail to carry the devices properly. But then something happens that changes everything. During one test, a number of bats escape earlier than planned. They scatter into nearby structures. Minutes later, fires begin to break out. Uncontrolled. Spreading. The test area is not a simulated target. It is an actual military facility. Buildings start to burn. The damage is real. Ironically, the accident proves the concept. The bats did exactly what Adams predicted. They found shelter. They started fires. And those fires spread rapidly through the wooden structures. Now the project gains serious attention. More tests follow. Refinements are made. The incendiary devices are improved. Timing mechanisms become more reliable. The containers are redesigned for better release patterns. At full scale, the plan is ambitious. A single mission could deploy thousands of bats, each carrying a fire source, each acting independently. Instead of one large explosion, the city would face hundreds of simultaneous ignition points. Firefighters would be overwhelmed. Response would be delayed. The damage could be widespread. From a strategic perspective, this is exactly what planners are looking for. A way to exploit the structure of Japanese cities. A method that bypasses traditional defenses. And a system that multiplies its effect through chaos. But there are still risks. What if the bats do not spread far enough? What if they cluster in one area? What if weather conditions affect their flight? What if the timing fails? Every stage must work perfectly, because once released, there is no control. As development continues, another reality begins to emerge. This project is not just strange. It is slow. Training, testing, refining. Each step takes time. Months pass. Resources are consumed. Meanwhile, The war is moving forward. Other weapons are being developed. Other strategies are being considered. And then, a new question begins to surface within military leadership. Is this the best use of time? Or is there something more powerful on the horizon? Because while bats are being trained for war, another project is quietly advancing. One that promises not hundreds of fires, but something far more decisive. As Project X-ray approaches operational readiness, its future becomes uncertain. The idea works. The tests prove it. But timing, once again, becomes the critical factor. And now, the clock is no longer on the bats. It is on the war itself. By mid-1943, Project X-ray is no longer just an experimental idea. It is a functioning system under military evaluation. The United States Marine Corps takes formal control of parts of the program, and dedicated facilities are built to scale up production. The goal is no longer to test if it works. The goal is to make it operational. Inside a controlled research hangar, thousands of bats are now being prepared for deployment. Mexican free-tailed bats are selected because of their endurance and flight range. Each one is fitted with a small incendiary device weighing only a few grams. The device itself is simple in design. A delayed chemical ignition system. It is not meant to explode. It is meant to burn steadily once triggered, igniting anything flammable it touches. The bats are placed into stacked containers, each designed to keep them in a cooled, dormant state. This is critical. If they wake too early, the system fails before it even reaches the target. Everything depends on timing. A flight operation is planned in detail. At high altitude, a bomber aircraft releases the payload. The container descends slowly under parachute control. Inside, the bats begin to warm as the air pressure changes. Then the container opens. At that exact moment, hundreds of bats awaken and disperse into the sky. The expectation is not coordination. It is instinct. They fly toward shelter. In early field trials, something important is observed. The bats do not behave randomly. They consistently seek out dark structures, roofs, and enclosed spaces. In controlled environments simulating Japanese towns, they enter wooden buildings in large numbers. This is the key assumption behind the entire project. That behavior will repeat in real conditions. But every assumption in war carries risk. As testing continues, small problems appear. Some bats drop their devices prematurely. Others cluster together instead of dispersing widely. Weather conditions affect flight patterns more than expected. Each issue is studied. Adjustments are made. Engineers refine the attachment mechanism. Biologists adjust handling methods to reduce stress on the animals. But time is beginning to work against the project. Because by now, another development has changed the course of the war. Strategic bombing doctrine has evolved rapidly. Long-range aircraft like the B-29 Superfortress are entering service. These aircraft can carry massive payloads across the Pacific and strike Japanese cities directly. Compared to that, Project X-ray begins to look unusual, even inefficient. Still, some planners argue it has a unique advantage. Precision is not the goal. Coverage is. One bat might fail. One incendiary might extinguish. But thousands deployed across a city could create simultaneous ignition points faster than fire crews could respond. That possibility keeps the project alive. In late-stage tests, a major demonstration is conducted. A full-scale simulated deployment is carried out over a mock Japanese village built for training purposes. At dawn, the container is released. It falls slowly, suspended beneath a parachute. Inside, thousands of bats begin to stir. Then the release mechanism triggers. The container opens. The sky fills with movement. Observers on the ground watch as the bats spread in all directions, disappearing into rooftops, wooden towers, and hollow structures. At first, nothing seems to happen. Minutes pass. Then one fire appears. Then another. Then several more, in different parts of the village. The fires are not concentrated. They are scattered. Difficult to predict. Difficult to contain. Fire response teams are deployed immediately, but they struggle to locate every ignition point at once. Some fires are small and extinguished quickly. Others spread into structural beams before they can be reached. The exercise ends with mixed results. Technically, the system works. Operationally, it is unpredictable. And unpredictability in war can be both an advantage and a liability. By early 1944, Project X-ray reaches a critical decision point. Resources are being redirected toward larger strategic bombing campaigns. Leadership begins to question whether continued investment in BAT deployment is justified. The system is not abandoned immediately, but it is clearly losing priority. Then comes the final evaluation phase. A high-level review is ordered. Military planners, scientists, and logistics officers gather to assess whether the project should proceed to combat deployment. The question is simple. Can this weapon deliver results at scale in real war conditions? The answer is uncertain. On paper, it has potential. In practice, it remains unproven under enemy resistance, weather variability, and real defensive countermeasures. And so the decision is made. Project X-Ray is suspended, not because it failed completely, but because something else has already proven more decisive. Conventional firebombing strategies, using large aircraft formations, are now capable of producing far greater destruction with far more control. The BAT system fades quietly into the background of wartime experimentation. No combat deployment ever takes place. But the idea itself does not disappear entirely. It remains one of the most unusual weapons concepts ever seriously developed during the Second World War. A reminder of how far military thinking can stretch under pressure, and how even the most unexpected ideas can be tested when the stakes are absolute survival. In the end, the bats never fly over Japan in war. But the project leaves behind a deeper lesson. Warfare is not only about strength. It is about imagination. And sometimes, imagination reaches places that reality is not willing to follow.